Horror story, Hu Xiantang. The story takes place in the 1970s in a Hu family household in the mountains of Kaiyuan, Liaoning province. The protagonist of the story is my maternal aunt, who was about to celebrate her 20th birthday at that time. During that era, things were different, especially in remote mountainous areas. Girls around the age of 20 were generally already married, and some even had children who could go to the village entrance to run errands. However, my aunt didn't worry at all about her marriage, and she even stayed at home every day, unconcerned about her increasing age. My aunt's parents were worried about her, but just before her 20th birthday, my aunt suddenly found her parents and informed them that her marriage had been settled. This completely shocked the whole family. My aunt stayed at home every day, so where did she find a prospective groom? Even if there was someone, how could she inform the groom's family directly without anyone having met him? However, my aunt was very determined and even resorted to threats of self-harm, telling her parents that she would have her wedding on her birthday. She asked her parents to immediately prepare the necessary items for the wedding, and in addition, my aunt asked for something special. Upon hearing that my aunt wanted them to prepare such a thing, the parents were taken aback. It was something they absolutely refused to do. The reason was simple. My aunt wanted something special, and it wasn't an ordinary item. It was a coffin, specifically a red coffin. Although red-colored items were used in weddings, nobody prepared a coffin. At this point, my aunt's parents already had a bad suspicion about the prospective groom my aunt mentioned. No matter how hard her parents tried to stop her, my aunt remained unmoved and locked herself in her room. Seeing her daughter's unwavering attitude and recalling the words she said about being willing to die, the parents were afraid she would really seek death as she had threatened. So, reluctantly, they followed her instructions, although with great unease. Soon, my aunt's birthday arrived. On that day, my aunt woke up early and sat in front of the mirror, grooming herself. She changed out of her regular clothes and put on a blood-red wedding gown. She took out her cherished jewelry from the jewelry box and adorned her black hair with each piece, transforming into a dazzling bride. With the bride ready, the groom was nowhere to be seen. The wedding hall was devoid of guests and laughter, only lit by a pair of eerie red candles, and most prominently, a red coffin. The bride emerged alone from the inner hall and slowly walked toward the coffin. In the terrified gaze of the two elderly people, she lay down in the coffin. The elderly couple was nearly petrified by this bizarre scene. After all, the person lying in the coffin was their own flesh and blood. They rushed to the coffin, wanting to wake her up, but the bride, who had a serene smile on her face, had already ceased to breathe. At that moment, the sound of drums and gongs came from the mountains behind, joyful and full of festivity, as if it were the melody of a wedding. However, within a radius of 10 miles, besides their own house, there were no other families celebrating a wedding. The elderly couple couldn't help but shudder. Later, a legend spread throughout the village, saying that a fox spirit who had achieved human form in the mountains behind wanted to find a companion. This woman needed to be a perfect girl born in a yin year and yin month. Coincidentally, my aunt, who tragically died during the wedding, was born in a yin year and yin month. Perhaps due to the shock of losing her daughter, my aunt seemed to have changed completely. She became a renowned shaman, famous far and wide, able to heal various mysterious illnesses. However, it was never heard before that she had any knowledge of medicine, and the methods she used to treat people didn't seem like medical skills. One night, someone knocked on the door, and when my aunt opened it, she saw a woman who claimed to be her deceased daughter, returning to visit her mother. At that moment, my aunt was certain of the woman's words from her tone and actions, without any doubt. The woman told her not to worry about her, and that she was doing well now. If there was ever any danger in the future, my aunt should go find her, and she explained how to find her. Then my aunt fell asleep, and the woman quietly departed, as if it were all just a dream. In short, no one could explain this mysterious wedding incident clearly, but since then, my aunt gained a resounding nickname, Hu Xiantang. Every day, many people came to her for medical treatment, and gradually, my aunt became famous in and out of the village. She even cured many particularly dangerous illnesses. The most interesting part was that my aunt drank the celebratory wine given by her deceased daughter and the fox spirit afterward. But that is another story. Horror story. Paper burn. When Chiaki was very young, Her father passed away due to illness, leaving her mother to raise her alone with great hardship. Only a single mother truly understands the difficulties involved in such a task. Although Chiaki's mother was a strong woman, she couldn't help but feel lonely ever since Chiaki left home to work. With her daughter being too busy to come home often, Chiaki's mother had to participate in various activities for the elderly to pass the lonely hours. The incident took place on the Qingming Festival in 2010. Chiaki's mother left her older sister's house very late and took the small road home. Qingming Festival is a traditional Chinese holiday when people burn incense and pay respects to their ancestors. Therefore, on the dim and secluded path, there were people kneeling and burning paper offerings everywhere, and the air was filled with desolate cries and the heavy smell of burnt paper. Chiaki sniffed and couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine in such an eerie scene. In fact, Chiaki's mother had also prepared wax paper candles for the departed relatives, so she was hurrying home all the way. However, while Chiaki's mother was rushing on the road, suddenly, a figure appeared in a secluded corner ahead. It was an old woman with a stooped figure, half kneeling silently beside a burning paper fire. The fire burned brightly beside her, casting her withered figure as a long shadow on the gray-white wall. Behind the hoarse cries, it seemed there was an endless sorrow and deep grievance. She raised her hand and scattered a handful of paper money into the air, lamenting, "My child's father, you were so heartless, leaving us mother and daughter behind early. How can we, the mother and son, survive? Woo!" After saying that, she let out another sob, seemingly too sad to speak. Empathy arose within Chiaki's heart. Who would understand the unbearable pain of raising a child alone after her husband's early death better than Chiaki's mother? Moved by compassion, Chiaki approached the old woman. She wanted to tell this fellow suffering sister that she understood her pain. As Chiaki took slow steps forward, she said, "Elder sister." However, as soon as the words left her mouth, Chiaki felt like something was choking her throat. She happened to stop at the side of the old woman in a delicate angle. Under the illumination of the firelight, from this angle, the old woman's body seemed to gradually become thinner, very thin. This couldn't be possible. Subconsciously denying the scene before her eyes, Chiaki took a few steps forward, supported by a trembling body, trying to see more clearly. To her surprise, as she moved closer, she witnessed a scene that she would never forget. The flickering fire had transformed into an unpredictable pale blue light, reflecting the face of the old woman. That face did not belong to a human. It was a pale color, with two dull eyes drawn on it, and two strange, vivid blushes on the cheeks. She was smiling, a terrifying smile. Yes, everything on that face was drawn, like crude graffiti by a mischievous child, but far more sinister than any graffiti. Chiaki finally saw it clearly. From head to toe, this old woman had no trace of human flesh and blood. She was nothing more than a thin paper figure. As if her scalp exploded, Chiaki was stunned in place. At that moment, the paper figure slowly turned its horrifying face towards Chiaki. This action finally snapped Chiaki out of her fear. She dragged her legs and ran home as fast as she could. A gust of cold wind followed closely behind, and Chiaki finally realized the meaning of a lingering shadow. She dared not look back and rushed to the well-lit residential area. Only then did the haunting wind behind her dissipate. After encountering such an incident, Chiaki never dared to go out and burn paper money again. She trembled in her home all night, and the next morning, she discovered that her body was covered with large bumps the size of bowls, resembling the ghostly bumps in folk legends. Upon learning about her mother's strange encounter over the phone, Chiaki immediately took leave and rushed back home. Following a folk remedy, she used a broom to smooth out the ghostly bumps on her mother's body. A long time has passed since this incident, and Chiaki's life has gradually returned to normal, as if everything has settled down. However, one question continues to linger in Chiaki's mind. If living people burn paper as an offering to the netherworld, then who do the netherworld beings burn paper for?